In January 1979, as the Soviet cruise ship Leonid Sabanov docked peacefully in Sydney Harbor, a young woman in a red swimsuit climbed through a porthole and vanished into the night. Her name was Liliana Gasinskaya, a 20-year-old waitress, and she had just risked everything to escape the Soviet Union. What followed was one of the most dramatic defections of the Cold War, and a media frenzy that turned her into a legend. Liliana was born in the Ukrainian USSR in 1958. From the outside, she looked like any other Soviet girl. But inside, she was dreaming of something else. Freedom. According to reports, Liliana had been planning her escape since she was 14 years old. She watched Western films secretly. She listened to forbidden radio stations. She imagined a life where she could speak freely, dress how she liked, and choose her own future. That dream grew stronger over the years. So Liliana found, perhaps, the only opportunity to get close to fulfilling her dream, graduated from the Odessa Marine Tourism Service Vocational School with the qualification of a ship waitress. She was then assigned to work at the Black Sea Shipping Company. In 1979, Liliana was working as a waitress on the Leonid Sabanov, a luxury cruise liner used to ferry Soviet elites and tourists across international waters. The ship was heavily monitored by KGB agents, especially when docking in Western countries. When the ship arrived in Sydney, Australia, Liliana knew her moment had come. She prepared carefully. She watched the guards. She rehearsed her route in her head. And then, under the cover of darkness, wearing only a bright red swimsuit, she climbed through her cabin's porthole and jumped into the harbor. The waters were cold. She couldn't see far. She swam in the sea full of sharks for what felt like hours, dodging boats, fighting currents, and praying no one would catch her. Finally, she reached the dock, soaking wet, exhausted, and shaking. A local man walking his dog spotted her hiding among moored boats. She told him she was from the Soviet ship and wanted asylum. Authorities took her into custody, and the headlines exploded. "The girl in the red bikini escapes the USSR," blared across front pages. Back aboard the Leonid Sabanov, panic set in. The KGB agents on the ship realized one of their crew, a young waitress, was gone. The Soviets quickly contacted Australian authorities, demanding her return. But Liliana didn't hesitate. She told immigration officials she had no intention of going back. In her own words, she said, "I would rather die than return to the Soviet Union." That statement shook the Australian government. The Fraser administration, cautious not to inflame tensions with Moscow, deliberated intensely. But public opinion swelled in Liliana's favor. The media adored her. And ultimately, Australia granted her political asylum, making her one of the first Soviet citizens to defect directly onto Australian soil. The press called her the girl in the red bikini. Photographers chased her. Reporters begged for interviews. And one of them, a journalist from Sydney's Daily Mirror, fell for her. The two began a relationship. Some say it was genuine. Others saw it as opportunistic. Within weeks, Liliana appeared in a bold photo shoot for a national magazine, becoming the first person granted asylum in Australia to be featured in such a way. The public was divided. Was she a brave defector? Or just chasing attention? But behind the headlines was a young woman who had risked everything and was finally free to make her own choices. After the media storm faded, Liliana disappeared from the spotlight. She quietly moved to Queensland, started a new life, and rarely spoke publicly again. Her relationship with the reporter ended. She later married, settled into privacy, and never returned to the USSR. Not even after its collapse. For decades, journalists tried to reach her. But Liliana never chased the cameras again. Her famous red swimsuit was reportedly auctioned off. And her story, it became a Cold War footnote.